Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited to be with you today. This is a training call, okay? So I just want to make sure that you have downloaded your workbook. And I have for you a 14-page workbook with the notes page. And you're going to want to have that, I think. It will be totally value added. My intention at the end of this call is that you have everything that you need to launch your podcast. I really feel like, it truly is the name of the game. It's a wonderful way for you to kind of expand your reach and to really grow your audience. And the minute you grow your audience, people now know who you are. They begin to track with you. Then they decide that they like kind of your point of view, your narrative, your philosophy on things. And then you're building the trust, right, for them to do business with you. So you're going to walk away today with, some fundamental things. And very specifically, I want you to learn the impact of podcasting today. And, I know that some of you are novices and some of you are seasoned pros, maybe even already have a podcast show, but maybe you're not getting the results or the support that you need. And you know that your numbers could be better. You could be scaling more. So, bear with me a little bit because I know that I'm speaking to a very eclectic audience. And I want to make sure that, my messaging is inclusive of everyone. Okay. So for those that are just like, what is a podcast? I've been hearing about it. Let me just define it before I go any further. Podcasting is a program. Think of like a radio program that you might typically say, oh, that comes on every day at 11 o'clock. I have to tune in to it. Okay. And if you miss it, you miss it. What's so cool about podcasting is that it's really a program, kind of like a radio show, only it's made available in a digital format. So instead of a radio station that you tune into, it's in a digital format, right? And now you can automatically download it over the internet whenever is comfortable for you. Yes, you can listen to it live if you want to, but you can also download it whenever you want to. And in my opinion, it is the name of the game. It is a wonderful way for you to really scale your business. So I'm going to give you a little bit more detail so that you understand the impact of podcasting today and specifically how it can help your business grow for the entrepreneur. And then I'm going to give you a lot of information which will help you determine if you feel like podcasting really is the right fit for you. Then we're going to talk about how you can add podcasting without investing any more time. And I want to show you how to not invest any more money. Okay, so I want to take the cost out of it by having you think a little bit more strategically. And I'm going to give you a specific example. And then we're going to talk about how to leverage podcasting to build not just a podcast audience, but how do you use podcasting to build an entirely integrated marketing and branding strategy. And I'm going to give you my favorite wheel that we've created that gives you all the aspects of while you're doing podcasting, how do you build out all the other elements of how you brand your business and market to your ideal customer. Okay. And then I'm going to talk about how we can help you. I mean, eWomenNetwork has an eWomen podcast network, right? And we guide and support you every single step of the way, not just from the technology side, but from the branding, how you brand it. We actually build your show card, all your graphics materials for you, and then put you in training with me. You get coached by me and Phyllis, who I'll tell you a little bit more about. So I want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. And some of you that have podcast shows, you'll be like our other podcasts. You may want to hop over onto our platform. But here's what I'm going to do, just so that you know. I'm going to let you know very clearly when the content part of this call is over. So that, if you just want to learn about podcasting, but for whatever reason, you really don't have any interest in being on the EWN Podcast Network, you'll know exactly when to hang up. Okay. And I don't want to hold you any further than you want to hold on to the call. All right. So just want to make sure you understand the platform of how this call is going to function. All right, let me tell you just a little bit about my story, because some of you may not know. eWomenNetwork is 18 years old. I started eWomenNetwork in large part on radio, specifically on ABC. That was me 18 years ago, bangs and all. And I'm at the ABC studios that way. And what was happening was I started eWomenNetwork like many of you, out of a spare bedroom. For me, it was above my garage in my home, and I was doing kind of the one-to-one marketing, right? And going to, networking events and trying to get the word out in every way that I could. And what I realized was that it just felt so slow to me. I mean, it felt like I was really pushing, a 500-pound rock uphill. And I thought there needs to be a better way. How do I get in front of more people faster? And at the time, you got to remember in 2001, there was no podcasting. And so I literally put together a PowerPoint and got myself scheduled in with the sales manager and general manager of the largest ABC affiliate in the United States, which was based out of Dallas, and got in front of them and did this entire PowerPoint about, the future of women entrepreneurs and, how they need to be speaking to women entrepreneurs and how we make 85% of all purchases, et cetera, all the facts. And you just don't walk into ABC and get a show. You have to be approved. And they approved me. And I had my show for a full 8 years. People still say to me, Sandra, what did you do that scaled your business that got you to 500,000 people, email addresses, and followers on social media, the combination of everything? How did you do that? And without a shadow of a doubt, I can tell you it had so much to do with the fact that I made the investment to go on radio. Now, I need you to know I paid in a month what podcasting really is in a year. And I was on the show and I had my own eWomenNetwork radio show on ABC for 8 full years. And it paid itself in droves. And the only reason why I got off the radio show is because the economy tanked. And I decided that's when I started to do my tour, my 30-city tour. And I started touring. I felt like people needed hope. People were scared. Entrepreneurs were worried. And I needed to get in front of them. And by that time, our chapter base had grown so big that now I started redirecting my energy and going live in front of live audiences at the chapter level. But for 8 years, ABC, the radio format, was absolutely the way for people to find out who I was. It got me so many speaking engagements. It got me lots of quotes in periodicals, newspapers, magazines, television, radio, all because I could say that I had a radio show. And today, it's just so much more effective because you have the opportunity to learn, and do this economically through podcasting. And I can teach you, and that's the intention of this call, is to teach you exactly how that works. Okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about why you want to choose podcasting. And this is in your workbook. And we are now on page 2, and it's fill in the blank. I'm going to try to guide you as I go through my PowerPoint, because the answers are all generated in what I'm sharing with you. Okay. Let me just say, podcasting, I think, is the most powerful way to tap into a brand new audience, right? Resulting in traffic generation, which is really what you want. You want to generate traffic to your website. And let me just tell you, when you're putting in a new podcast show every single week on the homepage of your website, that automatically increases your search engine optimization, right? Because that's one of the things that Google values. Are these websites out there, when they've got gazillions of websites to pick from, when someone does a search, types in some keywords, which fits the exact ideal customer that you're looking for. I mean, one of the things that they're looking for, of course, first is local. They'll always do that. But after that, they're going to be looking at where are the dynamic, meaning changing, updated websites, right? Video and podcasting are the two ways to really capture Google's attention and to cause them to want to rank you higher and therefore serve up, your website amongst all the other people that are in your space. Number two, it's just so super easy. It's just a really great way to build relationships with other key influencers because it is so conversational. And let me just tell you the relationship. Can I tell you the real way the relationships are built? Yes, it's the actual interview, but it's the conversation before the interview, right? It's just that having that casual conversation and calling them by name and them calling you by your name and you kind of sharing what your show format is going to be. And if you're going show format, I'm going to actually give it to you coming up. So just stay patient with me. But that conversation, all of a sudden, you become so much more connected and that relationship starts building long before the show is ever taped. But more importantly, if you're smart, it continues afterwards, right? So it becomes a way for key influencers to know about you. And many of these are people that do big events, right? Many of these are people that write blogs and now they can reciprocate, right? And include you. I mean, it's just the tentacles, that reach out are so powerful. It's a great way, I think, for you to be seen as an expert or a thought leader in your industry or your niche, right? Getting people to, separate you from the masses. The question is, how do you stand out in the sea of other people that do what you do? And, when you can say you're a podcaster, for a lot of people, it's a book author. But if you don't have time for writing a book or you don't have the expense to do a book and an illustrator and all of that, this is something that just like that. I mean, honestly, at least on our platform, I mean, you sign up in a matter of weeks, we can have your show up versus you deciding today, I'm going to write a book. How long will that take? Right? It's one thing to write it. It's another thing to get it edited. It's another thing to do the bestseller campaign. It's another thing. It's another thing. It's another thing. Podcasting is your fast path to be seen as an expert or a thought leader. Okay. And you just can't deny the numbers, right? I mean, iTunes alone boasts 525 million active subscribers. I mean, wouldn't you want some of those 525 already dedicated, loyal podcasters, subscribers to know about you? It's a great way for you to find out. And that's not even including Stitcher and Spotify and SoundCloud, which we also help you post your shows on in our program. Okay, so it's just a no-brainer reach when you think about it. I mean, there's no other social media ad that you can do that to get in front of a loyal base of people that are looking. And the trick is to be able to understand, how do you market? I mean, we even help you with your show name because there's a formula behind, how you make it provocative enough so that people really can not only find you on the topic they're interested in, but then once you're found, how is it that you stand out amongst other podcasters? Okay. I think it's important for you to understand that, podcasting is perfect for you. But there's some qualifiers. There's some qualifiers that I think you have to be aware of. And those qualifiers include that, you have at least enough confidence in yourself at this point that you know that you've got something to say. And I'm telling you, thousands of people can benefit. Right, Cynthia? Right, Bridget? Right, Pamela? Dee, Joanne, Lori, Betsy, Jerry, Diane? I mean, all of you, Sam, Sharon, Wendy, all of you, do you have something that you know is important to say? And you just know that thousands, they may not know you exist yet, but once thousands of people know, can see you, can find you, can tap into you, right, that they will fall in love with your message, that you've got something that can transform their lives, their perspective on things, can fix a pain point. Oh, I mean, this is a no-brainer. If you're like me, I felt like I was the best kept secret, right? I mean, I was doing women supporting women 18 years ago, way before women supporting women was cool, right? I mean, do you feel like, you are one of the best out there, and the only problem is that people can't find you? Feel like, maybe like you're a soda can floating out in the middle of the ocean. Nobody knows that you're out there. This is a great way to gain visibility and to monetize your business in a bigger way. And I'm going to literally give you our integrated marketing and branding strategy wheel so that you can see exactly how you can monetize your business beyond just podcasting, but using podcasting. Okay. If you know that you're just overdue, right, in establishing yourself as a brand leader, as an influencer, as an expert today, or you're just ready to grow your business, you're ready to increase your sales, and it's time for you to begin to repurpose your content. I mean, this is the perfect, I think, format for you. Okay. So with that, let me tell you how podcasting, what it's a complement to and how it's different. Because I think some people say, well, podcasting is, digital marketing, and, there's Facebook and there's Twitter and there's blogging and Instagram and email. Those are digital marketing. It's true, right? It's true. You look at digital marketing. It's all of these platforms, right? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, blogging, and then sending emails to your list. But let me just tell you how it's different. Okay. You want to take all of these leads, as you grow your audience, and especially, as you essentially begin to really grow your sales. What you look at as podcasting is it's taking your listeners, and you're taking now your listeners, into your funnel, which is what's generating some of your best leads. Okay. So podcasting is complementary to the Facebook. It's complementary to Twitter, Instagram, blogging, and your email list. But let's look at how it's different. And I'm on page 4 in your workbook if you happen to be tracking along, right? How is podcasting different? That I think is what makes it so unique and so powerful. Podcasting is literally today shifting the way people are learning, the way they are gaining access to information, education, and news, right? It's a new way. Think about it for a minute. Just think about it. Podcasting doesn't require you to stop and read anything. Think about Facebook. Think about Twitter. Think about Instagram. Think about blogging. Think about your email, right? And all of those things, you have to stop and read it. I mean, you can't be driving. You shouldn't be driving, right? And reading any of these things. But podcasting is so powerful because you can do it you can listen to a podcast while you're exercising, while you're jogging or walking the dog, while you're driving, right? Or maybe you're a commuter, right? While you're flying, literally that's what I do. I download them so that while I'm on a plane and I'm flying, I can be learning and listening. And then I have my little journal. I'm taking notes, right? And it eliminates loading books. Maybe you're not a Kindle fan. If I'm reading a book, I don't know about you, but I need the hard copy book. Why? Because I like bending the corners. I like highlighting. I like making notes, right? So if you're like me, my gosh, podcasting is the next best thing, because as you're listening and you're stationary on an airplane, you can be jotting those notes. And finally, you can be cooking, right? It's fun for me to watch my son. His favorite time to listen to a podcast is literally while he is cooking his dinner every night. It's a plethora of opportunities to tap into the convenience of the listener, right? So if we're at D on page 4, unlike all the other social media channels, podcasting is the one thing that you can do while you are doing something else. And that, my friends, is a game changer, right? If you're the multitasker of the world, right? And so many people are, if you, yes, you might want to listen to music while you're jogging, but listening to a podcast while you're jogging, you get lost in it. It's happened to me. I get lost in it while I'm listening, and I'm not even paying attention to the fact that I'm jogging. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to exercise and cardio, that's what it's all about. I mean, you can literally be, you don't even have to be outside. You can be on a treadmill, right? Millions and millions of people are taking advantage of it. It truly is the perfect solution for the multitasker. Okay. On page 5 in your workbook, let's talk about how to make podcasting work if you're already crazy busy. Anybody there already crazy busy? Can you relate to what I'm talking about here? All right. So let's get real smart, because I'm all about not adding new things to your plate, but re-looking at how we're spending our time, right? And channeling more effective ways to use our time. So if you're looking at becoming a podcaster, then I want you to think about maybe a networking event that you might go to, a chamber or something like that, a meetup, something that you go to, certainly not an eWomenNetwork event, but any other networking event that's out there. And let's just be realistic. It's not unusual for us to be spending, kind of 30 minutes getting ready, right? From, jumping in the shower to getting out the door. 30 minutes oftentimes to, drive to an event. Sometimes we got to get into a parking lot, pay for parking, right? The whole bit. And then 2 to 2.5 hours, at an event, even if the event is 2 hours, by the time you're off and out with some of the final conversation at the event, it's 2.5 hours. And then what? You're reversing, going home, 30 minutes to get home. That is the equivalent of 4 hours. Okay. So, if you look at how you're spending your time, right? I mean, it is the example that I have on page 5, 1 to 2 networking events a week, not uncommon. And often I'm finding many people have nothing to show for it. B is, let's take a closer look and illustrate how you can fit podcasting into your life without taking up any more time. See, I want you to look at what's not working for you, right? And replacing hours that you have no real ROI for things that can give you an ROI. If, not only a return on, your investment, not only a return on income, but a return on influence. That's the kind of ROI I'm talking about with podcasting. So, say you've been going to a chamber event, this is C, and time again, you leave and you really don't have anything, either absolutely nothing or relatively nothing to show for it. This is the perfect way for you to begin to think about, how might I switch out time, not add anything new to my plate, but do something that yields, so much more time. Because let me just tell you, in 4 hours with what I'm going to teach you here, I just want you to know 4 hours is 4 shows. And that's exactly how I did my show. I went in and I blocked out, to be totally transparent with you, probably 5 hours, 15 minutes in between. But I had a month's worth of shows. You're spending 4 hours sometimes just going to one event once a week. Do you see the conversion on the return on your time, the return on your investment, the return on your income, and the return on being an influencer? Okay, so podcasting to me really is something that you can do, not take up any more time, but I want you to see the benefits. It reaches beyond your local market. I'm not saying that you stop doing your face-to-face networking. I'm just saying it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for entrepreneurs to go to 1 to 2 a week. That's, that is up to 8 a month. Reducing one of those, converting that 4 hours, and now you're beyond your local market. you are totally beyond your local market. And because of that, you're completely expanding your audience. People are finding out about you, and you don't have to necessarily travel to that city for them to find out about you, right? And because of that, it really begins to build your brand. So if you're in a business right now and you can take clients from anywhere in the world, my goodness, but you don't want to travel. Maybe you've got little ones at home. Maybe travel isn't your gig. Maybe you want to be a little bit more strategic on your travel when you can speak to really big audiences, right? Live, there's a lot of power in that. This complements, right? I think of it as, that chain link fence of what are all the various different ways in which you can make yourself available, to your customer. Okay. So let's talk about how podcasting, it is a wonderful way for, if you're feeling like this sounds like it could be a good fit, Sandra, what's really involved? What is the money? Well, let me just tell you that you can do this. You can do this in a beautiful way that is literally under $200, like around $155. Okay. Literally under $155, and you're good to go if you want to do this on your own. You need to have some fundamental equipment. So, I'm assuming, can I just assume that, we all have, a computer. We all have a computer. Okay. So someone just said, Sandra, we're on page 6 at the top. So let me give you your A and B, right? Did you know that if you repurposed your time, that's what A is, repurposed your time, in that same period of time, you could have also recorded 1 full month's worth of podcasting shows. The B is, and with your own podcast show, you are doing something that reaches beyond your local market, expands your audience, and builds your brand to a much larger level. Okay. So now I want to talk about, in the middle of page 6, number 6, making it official, your podcast kit. You might even want to take a picture of this, right? So, because I'm giving you literally the code numbers, and I got all of these just so that you know, and we checked them again today on, Amazon.com. So for $150, now obviously you have to have a computer. So it's not including your computer. I'm making an assumption that you have a computer, but we recommend that you have the 1.5 megabytes per second. That's what MBSP stands for, megabytes per second broadband speed. And if you're saying, oh, how do I know if I've got that? Well, guess what? You can go to speedtest.net to check out your speed to verify. But you do need to have that. So it's really important that you check that out. Okay. Now, if you do, you're good to go. Now you're looking at like $155 here. Your microphone. Now we recommend the Blue Yeti, and I've got a picture of it right there. It's what I'm using to speak to you right now. The Blue Yeti USB microphone. And it's about a cost of about $129. Okay. And then your headphones are the Apple, the basic, simple. You don't need to spend a lot of money on some Apples. You just want to be able to kind of hear yourself, as you train yourself, you'll hear your tone of voice, how it's shifting and changing. Your voice is the music. You have to overemphasize your voice a little bit because people don't have the benefit of seeing you. And so much of your body language, how you use your eyes, and that kind of, Tyra Banks used to say, smize, how do you smile with your eyes? Well, now you have to smile with your voice. Okay. But earpods, I think, are really important. And today you can get them for about $13.50. And right there, you can take a copy. I've actually got the serial number. You can just plug that right into Amazon MD827LL/A. Those are the earbuds that we use here at the office. And then in particular, I think as you're getting started, you're going to want a pop filter. And that's number D on your page 6. It prevents that pop sound. Can you hear that? I've so trained my voice not to have the pop sounds that it's hard for me to generate them. But in the beginning, it's a very common. And it's also the the S's, the sizzle, right? Learning how to say the sizzle without it going sizzle, right? That wispy kind of S sound that you hear in the pop filter. I mean, for $12.97, under $13, it makes your voice and your recordings very, very clean. Now, I just want you to know that, as you can see, I mean, if you've got a laptop, I mean, the Blue Yeti, just so that you know, I know several of our podcast hosts, they bought it with the case. There's also a travel case that you can throw into your suitcase. You don't even have to carry it separately in a travel bag, with your pop filter and your earpods, and you can do your show on the road. I've done many podcast interviews while I'm, in other countries, while I'm traveling. So it's a great way for you to say, unlike me, when I did my show on ABC, I had to be in the studio, right? I had to make sure that I was in town, scheduling vacations around them, all that kind of thing. I mean, you could be on a vacation, tell the kids to, you'll be down in the pool in a few minutes, or to go down and get their breakfast. You'll be joining them, get them started, and then break away and do a call. It's like so easy to do. I mean, this is like this is for the working woman entrepreneur, the perfect fit. All right. You got that? Okay. So now turn to page 7 in your workbook. I want to tell you how you go about finding juicy, yummy, great guests. Okay. The first thing you want to do, is to search for authors. Search for authors in your genre. Okay. So, Jody, Pam, Ro, Tyra, Dakisha, Alicia, think about your niche, right? And who are the people that complement your niche? They either reinforce your point of view. They can even have a, side point of view that adds value, that expands your message. But think about that. And then, right, once you know who those are in your genre, then you want to go into Amazon, or you could do a search even on Google, and find out who has recently released a new book. Let me just tell you, that's called bingo, because every new author, the number one thing, think about the number one book that we're all watching, right? It's a politically motivated book, and I don't want to make a political statement. It's not whether I like the book or not, but you're watching authors, right? They'll do anything when their book comes out, right, to make sure that everybody finds out about it so that they buy it. That's how you also run a bestseller campaign. Most people don't understand that, when you have a book, it's not necessarily about the number of books you buy over the life of the book that makes you a bestseller. It's about the number of books that you buy in a condensed period of time that makes you a bestseller. Right? So, you need to be thinking about, who are the people that have got the books out, right? And then those people, you reach out to them, and I think you're going to be shocked at how many of them will jump on, that podcast interview. Because number one, here's what's so juicy about it. Not only are you going to promote it, but many of them are going to promote it. They're going to ask you for the file. You want to offer it because they want to show that they are, on this blitz of doing interviews to attract other people to invite them. So they're likely to post your show on their website, which is doing what? Getting you exposure to their audience. If you tag the link of your show on your other social media channels, your Facebooks, they're likely, right? And you tag them to then show it on theirs, which gives you access to their audience, right? And it's synergistic. So you're looking for complementary authors. It just makes sense that you're going to expand your followership. All right. You want to select prospects that you think could really be ideal clients for you. So, think about, people that you go, gosh, I wish she or he were, a client of mine, or it could be somebody that I could affiliate with, or, a joint venture, those kinds of people. You want to invite them because why? As I've already shared with you, it's about the earlier conversation, the developing and building the relationships, which doesn't happen just during the show. It happens before the show and ultimately after the show too. Okay. So a question came in that said, how do you figure out what your thing is that people can't live without? Well, the most important thing is you've got to focus in on the pain point that you solve. You got to focus in on the dilemma that people, are having. Look at your own dilemmas. Look at how you have conquered something and know that you're not alone. I mean, my whole business is all about, most people think that I started a networking business because I was a great networker. Not so. I was a rotten networker. I hated networking. I'm an introvert at heart, and so, if you're a social butterfly, you'll do pretty well in most networking environments. But what about people like me? I wanted to solve a problem like me. That's why eWomenNetwork has its trademark way in which everybody gets a voice. We help them, really hone in on the things they need to share, crafting their message, all of that kind of thing. So look at the problem that you struggled with, that you solved. And because you've solved it, you've learned a lot of lessons. That gives you a lot of wisdom, right? That wisdom then allows you to advise other people as you advise and help them. That makes you an expert. And the next higher level from expert is influencer. An influencer influences the experts. Do you see? So, moving to to number C on page 7 and in front of you, it's just a great way to develop relationships, which with people that I think sometimes are typically really hard to reach. I mean, when I'm on tour, I do a lot of podcast interviews. I say yes to things that I might not say yes to in other parts of the year than when I'm on tour, because I'm particularly looking for podcasts, that are reaching out to the woman entrepreneur, that in particular is interested in making it to the $1 million mark. Okay. The other thing that I think that is really important for you is to understand that developing relationships with people who are typically hard to reach, identify other subject matter experts that share your commonality, that point of view. Don't worry about feeling like it's redundant. I promise you, a subject matter expert or an influencer has plenty to say about a topic. And what you don't realize is that as you are talking and kind of bantering back and forth, you're building each other's credibility. Do you see what's happening here? I mean, if you were to invite me on your podcast, and I always tell my podcast hosts, I mean, that's a done deal. I want to be on your podcast. I'm reinforcing your point of view. So just by sharing each other and reinforcing, but having different stories and messages and points that you want to share, it elevates both of you. It's the ultimate lifting each other, as we climb. D is ask your listeners for guest recommendations. I mean, your listeners will guide you to having a hit show. I mean, you could end your show while you're building your guests. Who is it that you would love for me to interview? I mean, and then use that as the entree. When you're reaching out to someone, I'm reaching out to you because I have a podcast show and I have a great listenership. In fact, I asked some of my listeners, who would they like for me to interview? They want to hear from you. I mean, it's such an easy, I've done podcast interviews at the airport. And I've even said, excuse the, announcements in the background, but honestly, it makes it sound like it's kind of the red carpet. It makes it sound like we teach at our conference, our podcast hosts, bring your microphone and do interviews at our conference. We provide a podcast booth for our EWN podcast hosts, because that noise in the background with a good mic, it still comes crystal clear, but that noise makes it sound like, you're on the red carpet. It's got some oomph to it, some excitement, kind of behind the scenes. You want to make sure that they know that your expectation is that they share your interview with their digital audience through their social media channels that they're going to be featured on your podcast show. But you got to make it easy. And we teach you how to do that. I mean, you got to send them the link, maybe give them the tweets, maybe literally provide them the Facebook post so they can cut and paste, because they will often, many of them, depending on how popular your guests are, simply forward it to an admin or their social media team to do it for you. So you're going to want to include your hashtags and that kind of thing. Then on F, you want to give them sample tweets and Facebook posts, which I just said, I just jumped ahead, with a timeline. That's the other thing that I think is really important. And with a gentle reminder. I mean, let me just tell you, you can't get like, oh, I don't want to bug the person. No, you want to say, oh my gosh, we're getting close. Tomorrow's the day. Don't forget, I'm so excited for my audience to hear your interview. And I know your audience wants to hear more from you too, because they can never get enough of you. So you can't get worried and squeamish about encouraging them to post on their pages as well. All right. Okay. So let's move. How to schedule your guests. How to schedule your guests. Okay. So there are a number of ways, obviously, to schedule your guests. But first, let me just tell you, you've got to be willing to make, a true commitment to 1 day a month. 1 day a month where you literally block out a 4-hour window. That's the way I would do it. I mean, honestly, it's too much work to do it once a week. Do it in a half day, 5 hours. Okay. But like from 9 to 1, something like that, like take the kids to school. If you've got little ones, take the kids to school, and then have your cup of coffee, warm up your voice, get everything ready, and then schedule and do from 9 to 10, your podcast when you're first starting out. If you're all worried about like, oh my gosh, Sandra, how am I going to come up with, 60 minutes? Start out with 30 minutes. Thousands and thousands of podcasts are 30 minutes. You'll get really good at this. And then I promise you, in no time, I think you're going to blink. That's what I do. I blink and go, what? 30 minutes is over? I mean, you could have, one of the questions says, how often should I have guests? I would have them, as often as you can, 3 of your 4 times a month. That way the pressure isn't on you. You could use one of your calls for, your point of view, your view on things, that all of your guests are going to be focused on this main topic, and you're going to bring them different perspectives and angles and that kind of thing. Or you could do just the opposite. You could have your guests, and your last show of the month could be, let's talk about what we covered this month. Right? My first guest, it was so-and-so. We talked about this, and this was my big takeaway. And then we also followed up on this angle, and you could summarize. There's just so many ways to be able to angle it. But, if you're worried that you're not going to have enough content, just start out with guests. And one of the questions says, I'm a podcaster, but I haven't been able to monetize it because everybody wants free. Let me just hang on. I'm getting there. I'm going to show you how to monetize it. Okay. So then the B on page 8, spend time calling each guest to sort out their schedules and find a date that works for them, which I'm like, wah, wah, wah. That feels painful to me with telephone tag, but it's the old fashioned way. But here's the best way, right? And that is C. On a monthly basis, you can send them your calendar via, and there's a number of them, but one of my favorites, I want to share with you one of my favorites, via the online self-service appointment scheduling software, and it's called Time Trade. And I know there are a number others, so if you've got one that works for you, but for those of you that don't know what it is, it's really, a way for you to put your schedules, when you're going to schedule appointments, right? So they can look at, you don't have to play telephone tag. You can send them a link, and you've already blocked out when you're not available. But more importantly, you've opened up when you are available. And then you just ask them to pick a slot that works best for them, right? So that, you can schedule an appointment, not miss each other. And it just goes so much faster. It's really best for your guests based on, when you say you are open, and then they can correlate it with their schedule. And it just requires so much less, headache. It moves so much faster. Or can I just tell you, this is how we do it with our podcast hosts on the EWN Podcast Network. if you're on our network, you can come to the eWomenNetwork conference, right? Our Rise conference, and we will ensure that you have guest booked and time slotted for an entire year. We actually give you a format. We give you a form. You use all the people there. I mean, think about it. If you did, once a week, 52 shows, and we've got, almost 1,000 people there, this is called a no-brainer. Plus, I speak about it on the main stage. So I'm driving them to the podcast. I'm helping your guests understand what's in it for them as they while they're there to be a guest and how to prep for a guest. So, I mean, I will in 3 days, I will schedule you. I will help you learn how to schedule your guests for the entire year. And that's July 12th through the 14th, on top of everything else that you're going to learn while you're there. Okay. We are on page 9 in your workbook. And let me just say this before I dive into the show format, which is in the middle of the book. Let me cover a couple of things. Creating a template, I think, when you're first starting out is so important. Why? Because it's going to give you confidence. And if you look at the best of the best of the best, I always look at people that, are rock stars, and I try to dissect what it is they're doing and learn from them. And so you don't need to script. Just want to be clear. You don't need to script everything that you're going to say, because first of all, you don't want to risk sounding like you're reading, because it comes across that way. Rather, if you have like points, like a basic template, bullet points, a structure. If you've even seen me speak, I often come out with my cards and I'll have just little bullets, 3 bullets that I want to cover. But, I know that when I'm on tour speaking, people follow me from city to city to city. I was recently last week in Colorado, and I was in Colorado Springs one day and Denver the next day, and there were people that were there both days. And I felt a responsibility to hit my points, but to tell different stories. So I'm clear on the points I'm going to cover, but it gives me a little bit of flexibility, in my storytelling. But having a basic template or a structure will keep you on track, right? So that until you get your rhythm, you're not making some of the beginner mistakes, like those odd pregnant pauses, or, repeating yourself over and over, or just getting, off track, or, tirades that are completely irrelevant to what it is that you're talking about. So I still do this when I speak, when I'm whenever I get on a podcast, I ask myself, what are the 3 takeaways? If I'm going to do a 30-minute podcast, what are the 3 key messages that I'm going to weave in no matter what the podcaster questions me on? And I often share that with them. These are the 3 points that I want to make, right? And if she's or he is savvy enough, they'll drive me to those points so that it becomes win-win, right? So if you subscribe to what I'm talking about, then let's take Jimmy Fallon. I wanted to take somebody really popular. He's got a show format. If you start watching him, you will see he's got a signature format. He starts out with a monologue, right? Comes out, does a monologue. And then, he then, goes to his desk. They take a commercial break. He goes to his desk and he has 2 or 3 signature segments that, are part of the, Jimmy Fallon, Tonight Show brand. And one of them is his thank you notes, for example. And that's what he's doing in the picture in front of you. Very Jimmy Fallon signature segment for him. And then he starts to bring out his guests. Sometimes he has 1 guest and it's the whole show. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's even 3 guests. It just depends on the guest. And those are the decisions that you get to make. And sometimes he'll even integrate some of his crazy games with his guests, right? And sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes it's just a great conversation. If he has a band or a comedian, have you ever noticed? He typically puts them last. In fact, at the very end, there'll be a band. And when the show ends, he then, is standing with the band, holding the album, telling everybody that to come back and don't forget tomorrow. And he promotes his next night's guest. And then he runs with the album right into camera, puts the album on top of the camera and runs into the audience. I mean, it's so signature. It's It is, all of them have it. If you watch Seth Meyers, if you, any of the great talk show hosts, and a podcast is a mini version of that. Remember, the average talk show is an hour, right? It's an hour. A podcast show is an hour. Okay. So just wanted you to see that. So now, I would love to share with you now what I think, how you can take this show format and translate it into your own show format for a podcast. And this is on page 10 in your workbook. Okay. Your podcast show should always begin, obviously, with opening remarks that tie directly to the subject of the person you are going to be interviewing. In other words, you're teeing up the person without necessarily even saying their name, right? You're learning some things about them, and you are starting your opening remarks about the value of the point of view of the person that you're going to be interviewing, right? And then you want to interview your guests. You can do one guest for 30 minutes, sometimes two guests at your bottom of the hour, commercial break, and bring on a different guest. Sometimes I've seen podcast hosts do three guests for about 15 minutes each. It's really up to you. I would start out with one guest, and if you're really nervous, make your first show 30 minutes. You can always expand it. That's what's so cool. When I was on the radio, man, I had to do it for an hour, and I couldn't just say, I'm not in the mood, or I don't feel like I'm well enough prepared, or whatever the case may be. I'm super busy. I'm going to cut it to 30 minutes. It was an hour on the air, and I had to nail it. You've got so much flexibility, right? So interview your guests and end your interview with a couple of juicy questions, one or two signature personal questions. I've even given you some. If you weren't doing what you are doing, what would you be doing? He lets people get kind of behind them a little bit. If your house was burning, everyone was safe, and you could only grab one thing, what would it be and why? Or, one of the things that I like to ask is, what was the last thing you Googled? It's kind of funny what you find out is the last thing that people Googled. The other thing that we were doing over dinner a couple of days ago, I was in Mexico with some ladies, and we were talking about, the question was at the table, we went around, what outside of your family, right? Outside of your family and your kids, what's the number one thing you're most proud about in business? Right? Just find your signature and kind of own that, because what you'll find is, if it's juicy, people hang on just to hear the answer. If it's the same answer, same question over and over. Kind of fun, and another way to build your brand. Have you heard that? Oh, she always ends with, the question, whatever, the really fascinating what people answer. People hang on to that versus feeling like you have to come up with something new every time. Maybe use the same question for the first quarter, then you change it for the second quarter. You've got total flexibility. C is summarize your show by reiterating why you felt the subject was so important, why it was relevant to the listeners. And then you want to encourage them to subscribe to your iTunes. You have to ask for it, right? And then you can ask them, once they subscribe, to leave a comment, or if they're already subscribed, ask them to leave a comment. But don't just say leave a comment. You want to say something like, what was your best takeaway? If you, in this entire episode, what was the one thing that really stood out for you that was the real reason why you needed to hear this today? So you're leading them to answer the question. Very powerful. Okay, then you're like done. So now the question says, so how do you really monetize this thing? Okay, let me show you the wheel. I came up with 8 points, 8 segments to a wheel on how to really build your marketing and branding strategy. Okay, and any advertising types we should avoid. I'm not sure I understand the question. Why don't you write back in and give me a little clarification on what it is that you're looking for, and I'll come back and answer that. In the meantime, I want you to have this. Okay, you should have this on page 11. Okay, and then 11 and basically 12 and 11 and 12 guide you. You can take some different notes as I walk through each one of them. This is how you begin to really build a brand. And you've got to focus on your brand and your marketing. Customers are attracted to you. You acquire customers through your branding and your marketing. So to understand that podcasting is the perfect vehicle, it's kind of the anchor, it's the central point on this wheel, right? In which so many other things can happen is, I think, in many ways for you, what's going to make this such a no-brainer, right? So number one, obviously you want to attract prospects and customers as guests. People, so think about it. People that you've talked to once or twice that have expressed interest, but for some reason you haven't converted them. Having a prospect that you've developed a little bit of a relationship, told them that you are really fascinated in their story and think that it's really powerful. You want them on your podcast show, and you might even use your podcast show to use them as an illustration, of great work, or you can use it as a coaching opportunity, right? And they need to understand that you are bringing them on, and it's your intention is to make them look, as my daughter would say, fly. Make them look great. Make them look wonderful, right? I mean, people ask me all the time how I got, Beyonce's dad to be on my stage and how I got Ken Craig. And when I interview people, when I connect with them, I assure them I only want to talk about what elements they have that can elevate my audience, that can grow, the success of my listeners. You don't want to, hook them and, point out bad things, but it's about using your prospects to say, wow, it's so interesting. And, it just reminds me, another thing that you could do is, right, and having that banter is a surefire way, because in the 30-minute or 1 hour, you're just using that. Many of you do, if you're a coach, you do strategy calls, right? It's another way to do that in a very powerful way that could then say at the end of it, I've got to talk to you. This was so juicy. My mind is just percolating with so many ideas of how I can help you. We really do need to get started. Are you ready? Right? And convert them. Number two, become an influencer. The name of the game today is not just an expert. Subject matter expert, important, and a lot of people need to get to expert before they can become an influencer. But a podcaster, let me just tell you, is an influencer, and you don't even have to have all the knowledge. You just need to know how to get the guests. I mean, think about that. Think about the greats like the Barbara Walters, of the world, or the Diane Sawyers of the world, or the Katie Couric's of the world. They weren't always themselves the expert. They were the influencer that were able to attract experts. And therefore, Oprah is another one, right? I mean, that's just a way in which now Oprah's moving into now sharing knowledge, giving knowledge, being the expert and that kind of thing. But for so long now she's married the expert influencer roles together. And that's where the big money comes in. Okay. Let's look at number three, increase your website SEO. Well, if you've been on with me since the very beginning of the call, then you know that I've already told you that Google, right, number one search engine of the world, one of the things that they do is they look when they're doing a sort, when someone is putting in how they want to solve a pain point or the help that they need, and they're putting keywords, right? One of the ways that you come up, you have to ask yourself, my gosh, there's gazillions of millions of websites out there, certainly, millions of people perhaps in your space. How is it that Google's going to pick you? Well, one of the things that Google values is that you're shifting your website, that it's not just one and done, that it's not static, it's dynamic, that you're adding new information. The cool thing is when you add your new link every single month, it makes your website in Google's eyes, their algorithms, their metrics look like it's a dynamic website. And it's more likely to pick you up over other people who could be actually more seasoned than you. Okay. You could be the new kid on the block. But because of the way you're interacting with your audience from a digital marketing perspective, right, you're going to get picked up sooner. Then you take your podcast, interviews and you simply get them transcribed. Now you can convert them into blogs. I mean, I believe an hour show can easily be three blogs. You're adding those to your website. Look at how dynamic, again, your website is, all the ways in which you're shifting. Those should be at the top of the screen, right? The first half, when the average screen size today is 21 inches, you want to make sure everything is on that screen size that everyone can see when they first go on your website. Your social media, your podcast, if you're transcribing them anyway for your blog, now you can just make a copy and you can literally take highlighters and say, this is a great tweet. These 3 sentences make a great Facebook post, right? All of that social media, this is a great image with some great hashtags for Instagram, depending on where your customer is, all repurposing one podcast. That's what I want you to understand. We talked about that earlier. It's repurposing your podcast to look at. Now you can create opt-ins for lead generations. So now you can take, a month's worth of podcasts and if you do it around, say, a subject, you can say my top 10 or my top 5 and create a little list, right, of things that summarizes the key things. And now you're refreshing your opt-ins. If your opt-in is subscribe to my newsletter, forget it. I mean, that is so not juicy. But what you're having now, if you create, when someone opts in and they give you the email address and you ask them how they found out about you, now you're understanding what their pain point is. Now you're putting those email addresses into your funnel, and now you can start communicating with them based on what they say is their pain point, because you may have multiple programs, many of you, and it's not one size fits all. And now you can target and nurture that relationship. Right. And then product development. We teach many of our podcast hosts, if you're going to be a podcast host for a year, let's say you're going to write a book. What are the 12 chapters? Let's brainstorm what those 12 chapters would look like. Let's use every month for a chapter, right? And let me just tell you, the average book, right, is, let's say 12 chapters, 10 pages, or 10 pages, 12 pages, 10 chapters, 12 pages. I mean, in a year, if you're, having all of your podcasts transcribed, I mean, with a little bit of editing, it'd be a no-brainer for you to have a book, certainly an ebook, at the end of 10 months to a year. You're doing all of that while you're building your number of listeners. Don't think that I just want to make sure you don't think that you're going to pop up your podcast, started out, and boom, you're going to have thousands of listeners. You've got to build for that. But if you're saying to yourself, let me begin with the end in mind and make sure that while I'm doing this, I'm also repurposing the content for all these other reasons, it's a totally integrated, do you see what's happening? It's a totally integrated branding and now marketing strategy. Now you don't have to think about new blogs you got to write, new social media posts. Everything comes from your podcast shows. So juicy and such a no-brainer. If you're crazy busy, I mean, this is ultimately the best way for you to streamline all that busyness and get down to real business. Okay. All right. So here's before we end, I just want you to know some of the unexpected bonuses that I think podcasting can bring you that I didn't even know until, I started speaking so much. And that is that don't ever underestimate, right, the added bonuses of podcasting. I mean, you're really going to refine your voice, and it's going to really help you own and stand in your power on your point of view. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And you will crystallize, you will synthesize, you will shorten, you will master, what your business is, why you're doing your business, how it transforms your clients. I just think that as you begin to talk to prospects, you will see things shift for you. I believe, as I listen to a lot of entrepreneurs, that they just talk too much. And the more you refine your point of view, your narrative, the more likely you are then to stop having to explain yourself. Now you're developing real connection skills by asking the person that you're talking to. Okay. Increase your speaking engagements or your participation on panels at conferences is a wonderful outcome, I think, of being a podcaster. I'm just going to tell you, people went on the eWomen Network stage, even our breakout sessions. Lots of people apply. I mean, it's not just having just a great topic. I want to see video of you. I go to see if you've got a podcast. I want to close my eyes and listen to you. I want to hear what your point of view is, right? You got to have a sizzle reel, of course, that gets the attention, but you need a video that really shows you teaching a point. But a podcast for me is a great way to go and see what it is you stand for, right? And make sure that we're in alignment. C, PR opportunities for being recognized as that subject matter expert or that influencer as you grow your niche, right, is really important. People will seek you out for interviews. It's a great way to get it, to reach out to your local television stations, to go to Harrow, help a reporter out and be able to say you're a podcaster, right? It's a way to separate you from everyone else. It's putting the stake in the sand clearly and saying that, you're going bigger than the average person out there. It secures sponsors that you can monetize. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as I move into, we've got a deal with how we can help our podcasters get sponsors, right? But, sponsors want to see that you're up and running for a while, that you really believe in your message, that you're there to stay. They often don't sponsor things in the very beginning. That's why that integrated marketing and branding strategy is so important, because if you're beginning with the end in mind and you're saying, okay, I got to get my number of listeners up, how can I use podcasting while I'm building my listenership? Then once you've got your listenership up, now you've earned the right to get the attention of the sponsors. But we've got that because at eWomen Network, because we've got a whole platform. So, they've got sponsors that, want to target specifically women entrepreneurs. Women influence 85% of all purchases. So we're working to attract sponsors to our platform. And then they look at the shows and say, and then they'll do a rev share with you. I'll talk about that more for those of you that want to learn more about the eWomen Network podcast network. Okay. And then the last one is just cross promotion, by being, asked to be on one another's show. I mean, that's one of the things that we do with our own podcast hosts. We say, you know what, let's get on each other's shows. Everybody like each other's. Everybody leave comments. I mean, building that community of podcasters, because, once you're in it, I mean, you understand what it means, right? And lifting others as we climb is part of our values, and it's part of how we go about supporting each other. Okay. So if you're not on our platform and you just want to find other podcasters, you can just go into it and say, I'd like to interview you. Would you reciprocate and interview me? And that gives the cross promotion going on. And that gets you're then willing to share that person with your audience, and they're willing to share you with their audience, right? There's 7 billion people on the planet. There's enough for all of us. Okay. So I'm coming to the end of the core section. Hopefully you feel that you see why you need to be a podcaster. I've given you everything that I can think of, from, the reasons why, the equipment that you need, how to get a guest, how to format your show, how to integrate and make sure while you're building your audience, you're building a marketing and branding strategy. But I think that you just got to do it. Someone said, how viable is it to start a podcast without a guest? Very viable. The first 30 minutes, in my opinion, are so powerful. To even say it's my first show, let me tell you why I'm doing this show. If it's the one thing I've learned, one of the biggest dilemmas people are trying to overcome is this, and I have worked that very issue for myself. And because I have mastered the solution, I'm now on a path to make sure that I'm communicating and sharing. And I'm not alone. I'm going to bring other people that will not only complement my point of view, but will reiterate, bring you new things, new pieces of information, right? So that we are helping you solve this problem so that you can be how long did I just talk? And I'm talking really fast for you because I'm trying to honor our time. But I just want you to know you can totally do your show once a month, even twice a month. But I do think you want to get guests on there because you want guests that are going to corroborate what it is that you're saying, right? So that you are able to get the added, right, endorsement of others. That provides so much in people saying, I want to learn more. Let me follow this, right? Let me reach out. And now you're then saying to them at the end of the month, hey, you want to go to my website? If you've missed my other podcast, you want the short version, go, I just did an opt-in. Now they're giving you their email address. Okay. All right. Those of you that feel complete and you feel like you've gotten everything that you need to know, I want you to know that you are free to, hang up now. Okay. For the remaining of you, and you're saying to yourself, this sounds really great, but I would like for Sandra to hold my hand through the process. And I'd like to have, leverage her marketing platform, the eWomenNetwork platform and our podcast network. Then, this is your time to stay. Okay. So because I've got an incredible bonus that I only open this up twice a year. Okay. And I do a bonus, and it's a $10,000 bonus for the first 10. So I'm just telling you up front, for those of you that might want to take fast action, I'll tell you more about what it is. And you'll see that I can only do 10, because you'll see when I tell you what it is, I only have so much bandwidth. I can't take 50 on this. So, for those of you that are like ready, I want to get you up. I want to get you going, because I want you to be by conference in 90 days. I want you to be going and blowing so that I can fill up your card of guests and make this so seamless for you and get you the promotion that I can get you through all of the things that we do at the conference. So we have our own EWN podcast network. Okay. And what we offer is we want you to commit, put a stake in the ground for 12 months. That way, everything that I taught you on the integrated marketing and branding strategy, that wheel, right? You can take the next year to do all of that, and you can see. And I'm telling you, we have people, a podcast host that have never left us, over 100,000 listens, because they do. And now Michael McCauley is getting ready to launch his book. It's so powerful to see people taking action on what I teach. And because they get the monthly support from my team and myself, it's just incredible. And it includes up to a 60-minute, you can choose 30 minutes if you want to, right? Or you can do some 60, some 30, that's okay, but a weekly broadcast. So 52 shows is what you're getting for the 12-month contract. I don't want you to do them weekly. I want you to at least do them monthly, right? 4 shows in a month, because that will save your time, and you're only trading out one other thing that you're doing, a meetup that you're going to, and it's not getting you results, and it's not expanding your network. It's not getting you outside, of your local community and really building your funnel. All right. Let me here's a couple of the network benefits. You get monthly training calls. And if you can't attend, it's okay. We record them. But we really are about teaching you how to become an influencer. So we're beginning with the end in mind, and we're guiding you on how to market it, right? We guide you on everything. The music, we help you pick the music and make sure we help you with your name. We really have a philosophy on how you go about naming your show that attracts people, right? We do all the graphics in-house here at eWomenNetwork, so you don't have to hire an outside graphic artist for you. Your show card, your description, I'm going to give you and show you examples, right? Your concept, any questions that you have access to one-on-one coaching through Phyllis. And also on our platform, we put our shows on Blog Talk Radio. We have our own dedicated person, Amy Domestico, that is there to access for any kind of technology issues. We do onboard training and introduce you to our already, podcast host in a private Facebook page who welcome you, support you. Everybody puts, what do you think of this? And everybody's, how do I handle this? Which one of these do you like? And everybody just responds. So it's like this, right? You don't have to train on your own and test it out and figure it out. That didn't work. You'll get instant feedback from other podcast hosts who have been on for years longer than you and can share with you their wisdom from their lessons learned. We have a whole startup toolkit, with video instructions, written instructions, so that, if you want to start really kind of tinkering this with the evening, you can do it and you've got access to it. And then we ask you, what do you want your goals to be? And then we help you. Okay, we're checking in with you. How are you doing? Accountability support, the name of the game, so that you keep the main thing the main thing. Because if you always minor things, you'll only have minor results, right? We want to help you, major in major things. And so if you want accountability, you tell us what you want and we're there to support you. So an example of the live group training calls, they're live, but we do them on GoToWebinar, but we record them in case you can't make them, is that, we do an access call. So you get access to me 3 times a year. We call them Access Sandra's Knowledge. Ask Sandra. You can literally ask me anything. I mean, I've done so much fun training on, how you build even a sponsor kit and things like that, that in these calls you ask me, and it's literally a coaching call, an hour's coaching call with me 3 times throughout the year, right? And then we do the conference coordination. We prep you on how to maximize the whole conference experience, right? And then you attend conference. We do our own podcast booth, right? You can actually do interviews there while you're there, or you can just do the sign up so that you've got them done. We have a professional photographer, so they're taking pictures of you, even if it's just staged, so that you can use those on your website and in your marketing collateral. And then we do the whole take it up a notch coming out of conference. How do you leverage that? How is that tying into your wheel? What's next for you? How can we make sure that you're leveraging everything that you've got so that you're not constantly like, oh, what's my next Facebook post? How is it relevant? How is it tied into my, oh, am I going to be on Twitter? All of that should be integrated and seamless for you. Then we do a whole thing on vlogging your podcast so that it's, actual video, your podcast, which is very juicy, gives you a lot of video views, right? And expansion, particularly on Facebook. And then you get another call with me. I mean, the list goes on. We do it for an entire year. And then we ask you, what are some of the things that you would like for me to train you on or talk on in advance? And I'll prep for it. So, it's a full year program. And if you're not, if you can't make something on our calls, we record them for you. You can even ask a question, say, I can't be on the call, but here's my question. Will Sandra answer it? And you do that on the Facebook page and I answer it. It's just so cool the way it works. All right. Let's see here. The other thing that we do that I just want you to know is I've already mentioned it. We will create your host banner. Every host has to have a banner, right? And then you also want your host profile page. We create all of this for you with our own graphics team, right? So that it looks professional and seamless and links and has your description, right? And we create your show card. And you need that. You need to have your show card with your picture. And we create all of this for you. And we work with you on it. So what are you looking for? We ask you, we work with you on your topic, your description, all of that. Phyllis guides all of that. She is the program director of the podcast. She came from CBS, 13 years in radio. So she understands radio. She understands the power of a show. She understands the marketing segments and that kind of thing. Prior to that, she was in television as an associate producer with the Today Show. And then we automatically give you a pro membership to the eWomen Speakers Network. That comes with your being a host, because you're a speaker. If you're a podcaster, you're a speaker. You need to be seen as a speaker. People need to be able to access you at multiple data points. So I want to expand how people find you and reach you through the eWomenNetwork system. Okay. The other thing that we do is we give you the community support. So, we actually buy ads. This is all included and there is a fee for it, but it's nothing additional when it come back to you for additional stuff. We actually create and buy ads for you. And, we post them. You not only get the private Facebook page and the experienced host support, but we buy ads for you and promote them out there. And we share them so that you see that they're going out, people finding out about you. We've got the social media team. I've got a social media team on staff. They know how to buy ads that get results for your target market. The outreach has been phenomenal and incredible. This is an example of a current host, Sam Rayfoss, who is celebrating her first sponsor. Love it. Meal Garden. And she was saying, thanks for advice on the commercial, working on it. So we guide you for all of that kind of stuff. So even once you get the sponsor, that's actually the easy part. Now you go, oh crap, how do I do a great commercial for them? We guide you through all of that so that, they are impressed too. We're not done yet, at the conference. Just want to let you know that we're continuing to market and promote you. You're in our program guide. You're featured in our eWomenNetwork newsletter that's also on our home page, of not only, if you turn a show into, a blog, we will feature it that way. We promote you on our blog so that people can find out about you. We give you your own, podcast network logo. We then give you the banner and post them on all of the chapter pages of eWomenNetwork. So this is a huge amount. We want you to be successful. We want you to be so blown away that you don't ever want to leave. And we've got proof that works, as I'm going to show you in just a second. Okay. And then finally, I just want you to know that at the conference, there is the booth. We've got you in the program guide, and we're going to load up your guests for the entire year with business leads. So, as you're utilizing the conference and you're meeting people that could be your ideal client, it's the perfect way to say, oh my gosh, I just want to serve, come from a place of serving first. I'd love to interview you. Again, you're moving that relationship that you meet, taking the interaction at the conference, and now moving it into a transaction of serving them, coming from a place of serving first, and then using that as a way to say, we have got to work together. Are you ready to get started? Do you feel it too? Okay. All right. So here it is. It's a $6,865 value. I do this twice a year. The host price is $5,495. $5,495. We do a 4-payment plan of $1,475. You get one payment on signing up, and then the second, third, and fourth payments are every other month. And what I would say to you is you want to grab your spot if you want to do this. I just want you to look at what you're paying now. It's a transfer of dollars. Honestly, when you look at things that you're paying for now, if you value your time, go back to that 4 hours. If you value your time, the time you're getting ready, the time you're paying to go to a networking, the membership that you have to pay, the luncheon or the dinner that you have to pay, right? The time the parking that you have to pay. I promise you, if you add it all up, it is a no-brainer for the return on investment. You will not have to spend more money. You replace money that you're already spending. I've done the math, and that's why I've priced it the way it is to say, let's take out something you're already doing. Let's not only take out the money, but let's take out the time. Just repurpose it differently and make you stand out above everybody else in your space by being a podcast host, becoming a subject matter influencer a subject matter expert to an influencer. So what I would say to you is that, the bonus that I have, that's a $10,000 value, these are examples. I'm going to feature you, and that's why I can only do 10. Now you're knowing it's not like I only want to do 10. I've got bandwidth for 10 right now, because the first 10 people that jump on this will get an actual banner that we will create just like these. These are pure examples of our podcast hosts that were literally featured on the top banner of eWomenNetwork, the eWomenNetwork website homepage. That is a $10,000 place, and you get it for a full week. And you can pick any week. You might say, I want it when I bust out my first show. You might say, you know what? I want to get a few months under my wings and, and just wait, until I feel really secure and ready. And then I do it. You might say, I'm going to hold on to this and see if I can get this one, really juicy other influencer as a guest so I can use that to promote. You decide, and we can help you if you don't know. But the point of the matter is, and these are actual banners. This is Sam Rafos on, Loved Brand you. And we've got, Dr. Reverend Dr. Rachel Wetston, who has her show. We've got Grace Lonnie on All About That Brand. We've got Sharon Saylor on the Autoimmune Hour. I wanted you to see that all the different types of topics that we have, and these are real live hosts, and these are examples of the banners that we use on the homepage of eWomenNetwork. And that could be you, right? Getting the people that we have driving to our website is unbelievable, right? And we've optimized our new website. They get to see you there, right? Beautiful promotion for you. Okay. Then what I want you to know is that for us, it's not just about being a podcast host. It's about holding your hand all along the way. So it's about, for me, the onboarding and the training support that you get. And, I love that Kate Fessler, really said it was what we said it was going to be. It's phenomenal, and, if you want some accountability on your show, for your show, we are there to support you. I don't want to pressure you, but I want to be there to support you. Want to push you a little bit, right? So that you accomplish more than you think you can. Because I think that's our gift, in really lifting you. But, she has renewed now for a number of years. And as she said, it's one of the best decisions that she's ever made, not just for her personal or business growth, but also for her personal growth. Remember, I was saying those added benefits, to being a podcast host. I love this, wellness wisdom. I feel like when I talk to people and say I have a podcast, it gave me clout. And so without the eWomen platform, I would have never begun a podcast. But knowing that I had the support from people, not only from the corporate office, but from your podcast sisters. I mean, Camille is just saying, she knew that having them there was really going to support her. So I just, it is about showing Camille Kennard that, we want you to succeed. That's what we want. And we want you to feel, isn't she beautiful? Love that. Cindy Hendricks, her show is Imagine More Success with Thomas Hides. And she says she's just developing strong business relationships with incredible business leaders, because she's inviting them, as I've guided you, to be guests on her podcasts, so it's giving her more opportunities to work with them on so many levels, and they're reciprocating back and forth. So look at the added, you can't buy that stuff when you're reciprocating back and forth like that, and then, the brain lady. I love this one because, Julie, she's the brain lady, Julie Anderson. And what I love about Julie is that she was on another podcast network. I mean, she was on another platform. And, she decided, back in January, over a year ago now, that she was going to change her podcast provider and get on our platform. And, she's my biggest advocate because she knows what she came from. And she said not only did it save her time, but it saved her a considerable amount of money. And, there's just something to be said about not being out there all by yourself trying to figure it all out, that you really are, getting support, not just from us, but from Blog Talk Radio, because we give you technology support. We make sure that they are seeing you as a premier member, that you just can't go out on your own without paying extra, which gives you beeline access whenever you need, and then they are marketing their sponsors like Staples to our shows. So as you gain your listeners, they will maybe sell someone that Staples that wants to be advertised on some of their shows. They could pick your show. And by the way, Blog Talk Radio will cut you a 60% revenue. You'll get 60%. They'll keep 40% if they put an ad on your show. How about that? I get nothing. My revenue model comes from the sponsor, from the sponsorship package, or of you being the marketing package, of you buying the package. It's not from, any of the revenue that you get after that. I want you to have that, which is the total right thing to do. So, Turn Profit to Knowledge, Jonelle and Michael. Oh my gosh, they've been on the podcast for 4 years. They're over 100,000 listeners. It has totally enhanced both of their visibilities. People asking them to be at their conferences, be the go-to person on Turn Profit to Knowledge. And they just, they've been on and they just keep growing and growing and growing. And Michael's now leveraged the show to launch a new book. So I would just say to you, if you would like to be part of this, I know, grab your spot. I know that we can help you, and I know that we can do it. You're already spending the money. That's what I want you to see. I don't want you to see it as new money. I want you to, see it as money that, you are redirecting, repurposing. Because I will tell you, here's my final thought. And that is, if you're looking for a blueprint to follow, which is tried and true with people currently doing the things that I've described to you in this webinar, then I just feel that this program, truly is a perfect fit for you. And it couldn't be any better than this time of year leading into our international conference with all the added promotion and support that you get there. If you're just saying to yourself that you just know that the next best move for you is that you need to do this, you need to step in so that people outside of your backyard can find you. You need to differentiate yourself from the noise of all the people on Facebook, all the changes that, Facebook and, all of the other, digital platforms are going to be required to make. It's going to be harder, I think, to get access to your ideal customer. This, I think, with everything that I've laid out in a format that makes total sense. It's what I used for 8 years on radio. I feel like you're going to feel safer if you are part of a community of other podcast hosts that you can tap into for support and guidance. Then, I just don't know there isn't another program. We watch it. We do competitive analysis that gives you exactly what you need in our format. And, I would just say to you, if you just want to tap into and get trained and guided by our team, by Phyllis, our program director, by Amy Domestico, our dedicated resource at Blog Talk Radio, who is also a seasoned podcaster herself, and who knows the scoop on what it takes to be successful. And from me, a former ABC radio talk show host and now coach for you, that you get quarterly access to in order to help you, not just with your show, but anything else that you need my perspective or advice on, then the eWomen Podcast Network is simply a no-brainer. So in short, let me just close by saying, if you want to be part of a community and on a team dedicated to truly supporting you as you launch, grow, and leverage your show, then, I really do hope that you'll choose to join us. I just would say to you that if you're feeling the clutch, but you know that it's a yes, then I would encourage you to take swift action, grab, one of the spots, one of the first 10. We'll take more than 10, but the first 10 podcast hosts, I think, are the ones that are going to get the bonus offer. It's a $10,000 value. It's the application period is going to close is 7 days. No matter what, we will close it down because we've got to start the training. But the first 10 are going to get the $10,000 bonus featured on the homepage of eWomen Network anytime over the course of the next 52 months. So I hope that serves you. And I hope you're going to join us. I'd love to be able, I hope that you're one of the ones that I am announcing and featuring in upcoming Sip, Tip, and Talk calls. It's another marketing way that I announce our podcast hosts, and, through all of the marketing promotion that we're going to be doing upcoming and during post conference. Okay, everyone. Thanks for being on the call. I wish you the best. Bye for now.